Hey, we're live. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming along. I can see that there are a few people. I don't know if this will be a popular prawn or not at all. We will find out. So I've been doing a fold every week during this time of lockdown. I realise things are opening up, but we all need to keep our distance and keep safe. So this is very much in support of my colleagues in the hospital, but also for everybody to keep up the isolation and the creativity as a way of making this time an opportunity. So I think if you get going on origami, it will make you very happy. There's so much you can do with folding paper. So each week I'm bringing along a different fold. I'm trying to go for things that aren't too difficult, but aren't too simple either, because they've got to be interesting. So it's whatever takes my fancy. So in this case, somebody sent me a lovely link for this wonderful prawn. Hello, bonjour. Sent me a lovely link for this prawn, and I'm rather intrigued by it. I rather love it, actually. So I'm afraid, sorry for the purists, it does involve a pair of scissors, but I think with good purpose, because we're going to make some antennae. Bit of a mystery where this one's come from, possibly Yoshizawa or Honda. There's an interesting article actually by someone in the British Origami Society about the origins of this, and it does feel like a little bit of a mystery, and it may, we don't quite know, but it may lie with either of those two people. So I always try and credit people and thank people, because it's very kind of people to have made these discoveries and to share them. So I've also been thinking about how lovely it is to think about the seaside, make our own little origami seaside. So we'll make a prawn in just a moment. I'm just letting just a few more people arrive, because it often takes a little time. Actually, I found myself, this is actually a first for me, I found myself inventing a little scallop there too. Obviously it's quite a simple thing really to do. It was a sort of a square, and I folded over a corner and then started pleating. But actually that was a bit of a first for me. I just had a vision in my head as to what to do. So I'm still very much learning myself as well. And I do recommend you just playing around with paper. It's such a fun thing to do. I thought they look quite nice together. I've been finding loads of fossils as well recently. So I've been thinking about the seas from millions of years ago, finding like little tiny fossil cockles. So that's been rather nice. But I hope you're going to enjoy the prawns. So for this one, as ever, go and grab yourself some paper. You are welcome just to watch if you prefer. You can just watch me do it. But I would, hello Stephen, I would recommend that you give this a go. It's always fun. So Stephen, I was saying about it's a little bit unclear from what I understand as to who has come up with this beautiful design, whether it's Yoshizawa or whether it's Honda or whether it's some other origins, or I don't know. But so I try and give credit, but I think it's a lovely design. And as you know, it does involve scissors. I'm sorry, but we can have a few exceptions. So grab yourself some paper. Also, grab yourself some, if you can, some sharpish scissors, because it needs to be quite fine little cuts. But I think it's worth it. It has purpose, this one. I was just showing Stephen, I've been inventing a little scallop. It's quite a simple one, but that was quite nice. I thought we could do a whole seaside theme. I'm nowhere near the sea in Oxford, as you are, Rich, but it's nice to imagine. Give yourself a little bit of making up your own summer. So as ever, I'm going to reposition this round, and I hope you've had a good week so far. Feeling maybe a bit summery. Comes and goes, doesn't it, the weather? Right, so I think white's actually the best one for me to demonstrate with, just in terms of being able to see. So as always, start off with a square. Many of you, if you do origami regularly, will have the squares already. But I'm always keen to show how to start, and actually it's just relaxing. I'm encouraging people to take the time. I think it was Amy last week who had a go at doing this, and she really followed the going slow, and she did the most beautiful butterfly as a result. So it was really sculptural. There was something different about it. I think can you diagram? Oh gosh, wow, Penny, thank you. That's a privilege. God, I've no idea. I can certainly give it a go. This is I was quite pleased with it actually. Hello, Amy. I was just saying, you're near the sea. No, you're nowhere near the same as me. Yeah, this scallop was quite simple, really. I think I was quite pleased at the top of it because it feels quite scallopy. But it's one I made up. I can give it a go, Penny. Gosh, what a lovely challenge. Thank you. That was actually a first for me. Yes, you went nowhere near. Yeah. So I'm going to make the square as ever, turning it over. I was just saying, Amy, that last week I was really inspired to see that you really did listen to the going slowly. I think applied it maybe even better than I do. But you went slowly. I thought your butterfly was fabulous. It had a real different feel to it. Tends to frown on cuts. Ah, yes. Oh, that's interesting about the cuts. Yeah, I wondered. There was an interesting article. It's from David Lister about this design, and it sounded as if I could be wrong, as if maybe it was almost disowned a bit for having the cuts, but I think it has a real purpose. I think it's really nice, whether we're purists or not. It's almost slightly the Zen mentality, isn't it? You've got to suffer to make your origami brilliant, but actually scissors can be permissible. So we'll get rid of the strip. Let's just say I've also been inspired by finding lots of fossils recently too, which is very exciting. I think maybe today I actually found a little tiny bit of a tooth. So I'm wondering whether it's a bit of a dinosaur tooth. It's nice to imagine, isn't it? So hopefully, sorry, I am talking a lot, but it's actually really lovely to see that people are joining me. So it's nice to have a chat. So we've done our diagonal line. Our next move, as it were, is to fold to that diagonal line from one end. Obviously, it doesn't matter which end. Again, I'm going deliberately slowly, which is good for explaining, but also good for relaxation too. So I've folded the side, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. I find it really varies because I've mostly learnt from videos, and if someone's going quite fast, I find it quite frantic, and actually it makes me feel really on edge. I much prefer hands that are going slowly, confidently, calmly, rather than someone who's clearly trying to speed through, which is impressive, but it's not really relaxing. There we go. And it's those folds that give it the strength. Lovely. So it should look a bit like a kite. So if you go again, I don't know, maybe Stephen or Penny, maybe are there other seaside folds that you might recommend or suggest, and obviously who I can credit those to as well. It'd be nice to do a whole seaside theme over this summer, wouldn't it? Again, the other side. I can try and teach the scallop if that's useful. It looks like others have done it, but I thought hopefully the top of mine's a little bit more, a bit more like a real scallop. There we go. So you've done one end, and now do another fold from the shorter end to the middle, like so. Go to that line again. Just shout out if I'm going too fast. And then same on the other end. I know lots of you experienced, but anyway, it's nice to do things together. It's very sweet of you coming and supporting me. I do appreciate it. It's a lovely thing, isn't it, folding together? It comes from one person, it's passed on to another. It's all about the social, really, as well as your own discoveries. So our next step is, I'm going to turn it round, it's a nice long thing. It's a sort of a flat shrimp at the moment, is to take the top and fold it over so it meets that little point. You see, so folding up to there. I've also had to do folds that I can be comfortable with doing sort of upside down and away from myself, as it were, getting used to folding to the camera. So our next step is to do a little fold at the top here. It's a little bit by your own judgment, really. I think with the animals, from what I understand, it's less sort of geometrical and there's a lot more sort of variation, but in some ways that allows expression too. I've myself been more attracted initially to the mathematical, but I'm really enjoying a few animals actually. It's lovely because it makes you think about them, thinking about the seas. That's it. So it's a little tiny fold there, and you should be able to just tilt it back. There we go. So our next steps are the cutting. I suppose is that the kirigami, the Japanese for cutting. So what we're going to do is this little bit. So we folded it down, and if I tilt it back, this little area, we're going to cut a little tiny slot. So it's going to go sort of from there across and then up, but keep it quite narrow because ultimately it's double the width of what we cut out. So I'll give it a go at cutting here. So nail scissors I think are quite good, because if you had kind of big blunt scissors, this would be a bit frustrating. I'm going to just hope you're able to do this with yours as well. Funny, if anything, it's the cutting I find a little bit more nerve-wracking than the folding. Funny, isn't it? Feels like almost a little less controlled than the folding. There we go. So actually, if you open this up, you can see I've left a little slot, and that's going to be for the antennae to go through. So next, cutting the antennae. So we're going to lift up the side here, and it's really just this top, which is effectively a double layer, and I'm going to cut a strip. So Amy, I see that you've been doing so many creative things every day. Amazing. So I'm cutting a little narrow strip, and you want to do it narrowish because the antennae looks good if it's not too fat, but at the same time, don't do it so narrow that it will break. Oh dear, I'm getting a bit narrow there. So it's a little bit of a careful balance, that one. Again, be patient. If anything, I find this cutting a little bit slower than the folding. Hope this is working for you. Right, so if you go sort of close to the end, but not quite, so around there. Does that make sense? It's a bit harder to show, but that's one antennae. And then again with your other side, lifting it up and cutting a little rim. June Bug Challenge and 30 days on Twitter provide great focus. Gosh, yes. Well done. It's good. You must be learning lots. Really colourful and beautiful. Yeah, I'm seeing really Twitter and social media as a way of really exhibiting what you're doing, a way of sharing. Because actually, I do find exhibitions in a weird way can be a little bit passive. Very few people, honestly, went to go to galleries and things, whereas stuff online, everyone can see it. Or not everybody, but a lot of people. Seems to have opened up a bit there. So have you been able to do the cutting on both edges? I hope I've shown that okay. Every day is a learning day. I love it. So true. The thing is with learning, it's a bit of an addiction, isn't it, in a good way? You learn things and you want to learn more things. And I do think the origami, it really does encourage you to take a positive attitude to learning, to not giving up. A lot of it's about persistence. A lot of it's about repetition if you really want to learn things well as well. And there's no quick, easy way to learn things, is there? I found it does get easier with time, but it's not easy. It looks quite interesting, doesn't it? So I'm going to take one of the antennae and going to thread it through the hole at the front. So I hope this is working for your one too. Whoops, pinned out and tickled me, I think. So bringing it out, I do really like this design. Very nice. And on the other end too, threading it through. Again, take your time. It always feels a little bit more unpredictable, doesn't it, the cutting? But that's, I think, a nice bit of expression to it. So hopefully a bit like that. You can slightly pull back that little piece because it's going to help make a sort of almost a little snout type thing at the front of it. Is that working? That's it. So our next step, are you all up with me? Do shout if not. I know there's always a little lag, but I hope that's worked. So our next fold is to go from this point over. So we're just simply going to fold it over. You see, a straight line. And this is really giving the top of the head here. Prawns are one of my favourite foods as a child. I do like a prawn. They're exoskeleton, which is perfect for this. So our next step is to make this sort of lovely pleated body. So to do that, actually, if I bring this, this is a head, I'm going to bring up the tail. It's all disappeared. And for this next step, if you bring down the front to the point where you can still see a little bit of that inside of the body there. That's the sort of point I'd aim for. As I said, I think with the animals, I might move this actually at this point. the animals, there's a lot more kind of room for maneuver, but in many ways that's quite good because it allows that self-expression. So trying to do it into the camera. There we go. Does that look about right? Great. And we're going to get pleating. So are you all up with me at this step? I'm afraid I can't see you, but you can see me. I'm going to do another pleat, another fold on the bottom there, and I'm keeping it quite tight. Can you see? So I maybe will fold a line just a little bit below that sort of first step. Again, it's not really an exact art, and I haven't ended up counting the number of pleats. I just keep sort of going really, because I reckon the more pleats you have, the better. So its tail sticking up, we need to bring it down. The next height I'd go for just a tiny bit above that little step, trying to keep it in a straight line as well. She says, I'm not sure that mine's very straight. A little bit harder upside down for me. There we go. Going to try and, the great thing is with paper, you can always reposition, can't you? And again, bringing it up. And it's these little steps, and I'm doing little tiny steps because that way we'll get a lot more pleats and it looks that little bit more realistic, and it also allows you to shape it more. That's it. And just keep going. So I'm afraid I don't quite know how many pleats this one will have, but I'm going for keeping it quite nice and tight. So almost a little bit above that. Just a little bit above the step, and then I come down just a tiny bit below the step and then up again. So I'm just going backwards and forwards, and you're doing it so it also sticks down because that's where the tail will end up. Don't know if any of you are doing this in colourful papers. I've been surprised actually. I think the white's quite good, isn't it? You wouldn't think it, but I think you can see the shadow and form quite well, I thought, for filming. So keep going. Maybe I'm doing these a little bit too tight. This is going to be a very long tail, isn't it? Keep going. I think I've maybe overpleated mine. Is it possible to overpleat? Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, as I said, it's not an exact science from what I can see for the animal folds, but please do feel free to correct me. Oh, Penny, I'm chuffed if you feel it's a fold that was worth documenting. The scallop. I could maybe submit it with a picture of some little cockle scallop type shells I've been finding, fossil ones, which are between 66 and 150 or so million years old. And I've been finding them in a little heap of car stone from where I've gone running. And it's just a little heap of sand which effectively will be used to make paths. And I've found it's full of little tiny fossils if you look carefully enough. There we go. Sea life. So our next step, I might as well bring the camera up. There we go. So if we're going to, our next step, this is obviously the underneath of our prawn. I'm going to turn it to the other side. We want to flatten it really. So very carefully flatten your prawn. Well, actually, no, it's kind of giving it shape, isn't it? It is flat, and I wanted to bring it in half. So we've got it at the top there, and if you fold it down, and you may need to go a little bit carefully through each of the parts. It's quite thick as well. So I'm going through the front of it first, and then this tail you can see is getting out of shape. So go through each of your ones and fold it in half. So it ends up something like that. Has that worked for you? It looks like a different kind of crustacean at the moment. I don't know what, but it's rather interesting. I love small creatures as well. I've always been quite fascinated. I used to keep a little pond in my room. Look in there. It also reminds me a bit of a freshwater louse as well. They can be a little bit like this. So we're almost there. Next, we're going to make a little curvy tail. I hope it's been working for you. It's to make a little curvy tail. So to do that, well, this is how I found it's worked for me, is to, so almost gently holding the head there. You should be able to pull out each part in turn. So start with the widest one. It's quite physical. I'm pulling it out and beginning to sort of tilt the angle. It's a real kind of piece of sculpture and forces, isn't it? So each one you're going to pull out is quite a force actually. You can pull out, turn downwards. You're trying to begin to give it a curl. And I think the more segments you got, the more chance you've got of being able to curl it and actually find it's longer than it looks as well. So again, just be patient with yourself. You'll be able to start pulling out each of these segments. And then as you press in at the side, it will sort of help lock in place. There we go. There we go. I've got quite a curvy little tail. Maybe because I've done quite a lot of segments, maybe it's a different sort of shape, but it's rather cute. I hope yours has worked. If you can, or if you feel like it, do photograph your little prawns or anything else sea-like that you make, or any other ideas for what we can share, and the little theme of origami beach, make our own little holiday for the mind. We'd be stuck indoors a lot more, not being able to get where you want to. We're in Nottingham, then yeah, it's a long way, isn't it? The same. So I hope that's worked. Again, I'm here every week, so thank you so much for joining me. 2 o'clock. And also all sorts of, thank you, Stephen. All sorts of other exciting things will be happening as well. I'm adding on videos, but we're also going to be making a really beautiful leaflet to inspire people in hospitals and communities. Or if you're involved in any sort of groups that would be online, possibly more vulnerable people, but it's fine, whoever. If you're in a group and you'd really like an origami session and you're not used to having origami, no point, and a group who already does origami, then possibly it may be something we can consider as part of a project that we're doing with a little bit of funding from the lottery for community funds. So we're using origami as a way of reaching people, and I think it's really lovely, isn't it, to do something physical like this. It makes you feel like we're a lot more together than someone just talking. So yeah, so I hope it's worked, and thanks ever so much for taking part, and I look forward to hopefully being with you another week. Well, I will be here next week, so take care, keep safe, look after yourselves, and thank you so much. Keep up the folding.